Ta-da! Hi, my name's Andrew Wall. I'm a principal at Meeples Crossing, and I'm here to do an interview for you.
Yep.
Isn't that exciting?
We're going to be interviewing Andrew. He's very excited.
I'm
excited.
here with Lane.
Yeah, you interviewed
Yep.
me. He interviewed me last time. Now it's my turn to interview him. And I'm excited. He's not excited, but I'm excited. You got a little bit of you might want to move your mic a bit. You're breathing in it a little bit.
What?
Good enough, though.
Who knows?
Okay, so yeah, you're the vice president. Yay!
Very much so.
Yeah, very much so. So let's start from the top. So,
okay.
Why, in your own words, did you become involved in Meeples Crossing? Did you even have a choice in becoming involved in Meeples Crossing?
What a leading question. To some extent, I didn't, and I'm joining along for this adventure of launching a web store. But I guess I did have a choice, and as insofar as
You always have a choice.
I've had
man.
a background in graphic design. I've been doing it websites. I've worked as a pre-press T-shirt technician.
Which means what?
In the past,
what's a pre-press?
Which means that I've worked with T-shirt artwork, and I have some experience at doing the artwork for T-shirt prints,
yeah,
etc. And that means I'm rather comfortable with starting up, being part of the Meeples Crossing launch here.
Yeah.
Or web store.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, we first talked about this like last August.
Oh,
probably a year
ago.
Yeah.
You were basically what when you had mentioned the web store and like the whole idea, you had like passed the name by me, and I thought it was a clever name, and from that point I was pretty much on board. I was like, man, that would be neat if we could use that and start an apparel and design company specific to the board game niche.
Yeah. And at first we had talked about like potentially printing stuff at home and doing it super artisanal, right. But I think that thankfully that got a bit kiboshed as soon as we realized how much work that would be.
Well, yeah, there's a fair amount of work to getting together a whole screen printing setup and setting it up in your own garage.
Yeah, we've been really, I'd say we've probably been both kind of working towards this for a while. So
yeah,
and you've been working with me with my design business too, so that kind of just nicely fit in, kind of a smooth transition, shall we say. So what's been smooth. Your like your one favorite moment in all of this? The moment where you're like, oh, maybe we won't crash and burn. Like, what was that moment? Did you have a moment like that?
Well, perhaps. I think when we actually started building Shopify sites for some of our clients with our Heroics branding business, I think once I saw that was a really, like, it's a quite simple system to put together.
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw that system existed and we had a little bit of experience seeing how that worked, there was a point where I was like, oh, wow, I think we can put one of these together.
Nice.
So, what was that? Something like 6 months ago?
Yeah, probably. That's about when we got started on these.
Yeah.
That's fair. So
at any rate, when I saw that, I was pretty much thinking we can actually set this up really easily.
Nice. So why don't you describe kind of your process, and in a lot of ways it's our process now since we started on it together, and we've kind of adapted to each other. So what? How? Just in easy terms, describe kind of the process that we go through to create a new T-shirt design.
Um, the process to create a new T-shirt design. Well,
Yeah, the process of
first,
designing it.
basically, first we have to start with a sketch or an idea. Actually, you have to start with an idea, and I think we we usually come up with an idea for a shirt somewhat together, or pass an idea by each other and kind of go back and forth on what it could potentially look like, and then from there we have to come up with sketches. Usually, sometimes we tend to work on sketches from both of our perspectives,
That's true.
and I found that to work pretty cool, where we both work on a few sketched ideas based on what we're imagining it might look like,
Yeah.
and from there we take probably the best idea with the best with the consensus of going ahead with it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and then I feel like there's usually a point where it's like we can't really capture this accurately anymore just with a sketch. So then we kind of move to the actual vectorization point.
yeah.
Because at a certain
Yeah.
point, for me at least, I'm like, ugh, this is still crappy. I need to start
Yeah.
actually working on with some software here.
Sketches aren't always the most appealing looking things.
Yeah.
Yeah, from there, yeah, once you have a sketch that's like in a good enough state, we kind of can take that and bring it into the design software and put some real smooth, clean edges on it, and bring it into a more final looking state.
Yeah, and that usually involves like a fair amount of back and forth too, right? Where
Yeah.
I'll spend some time on it and get it to a point where I'm like, well, this still looks like crap, but maybe you can make it better. And then we kind of do that 3 or 4 times. And usually that gets us closer to the end point.
Usually I bring my crazy ideas and present them to you, and you take your analytical perspective and be like, "Yeah, that's dumb. We shouldn't do that." Helps me rethink and redraw a few of the ideas that make the designs a lot more complete.
And to be fair, you're more perfectionist than I am with the end design. So you always,
Yeah.
usually we both give as good as we get, I'd say. But that's just me being defensive now.
No, I'm trying. I guess it's not coming across as a compliment, but
I know what you mean, though. We have
I
different perspectives, differing skill sets, and they really complement each
yeah,
other.
I actually appreciate it because it keeps me rethinking, and it's really good to rethink while you're like in the middle of a design process, because you can tend to get tunnel vision on your own.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Or just get kind of stuck on something that's just not
Yeah.
quite working. You know it should work, but you can't figure out why.
Yeah.
So that's another area where it's really helpful. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers our design process. Usually there's kind of a
Yeah.
point where we're like, oh, that looks nice now, and not just a pile of trash. And then we stop. Or maybe do a little bit more because you're a perfectionist and you spend more time tweaking it.
I make sure it looks good.
Yeah.
And I guess once we have the final artwork for the store, we need to put it onto mock-ups and make it look semi-real so that we can present it to people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I actually really enjoy doing the mock-ups, bringing the artwork onto it and attempting to make it look like a real product and trying to get it to look as real to what I think it will look like. So
like as accurate
once
as
we,
possible. So when
yeah, make
people
it
get
as
it, they're not
accurate as
like,
possible.
"What the heck? This is an entirely different shirt."
Yeah, the shirts will be uh, basically what you're seeing on screen to some extent.
Depending on your
My
device, of
favorite part,
course.
yeah, my favorite part is really like working on like the little bumps in the fabric and stuff and making it. It's a bit technical, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that's also a skill you kind of brought from some of our other design work where we've put together mock-ups together, or for
Yeah,
just our corporate clients. Um, yeah, it is neat because you're kind of seeing like you've managed, even though it's still digital and it's still a visual image, it still feels like you've proved that it could be a workable concept.
yeah,
No, that's fair. All right, so
yeah. When
let's
it's on mock-ups, you can really tell
yeah, compared
or
to just
really
like
see what it looks like.
a flat image where you don't have the context of how the fabric is kind of affecting the design.
Yeah.
That's fair. That makes sense. Let's move to the next question here though. Uh,
Okay.
so out of all the Meeples Crossing shirts that we've designed, which one would you say you had the most fun working on it?
I think that I actually quite enjoyed the the process we had going for the Wingsman t-shirt design.
Oh yeah.
I thought that the basically we got to use our favorite parts of our skills, both me and you. You had a great idea, so you put it down on a sketch that looked real good.
Ish.
And well, I thought it looked good.
It was
as far
definitely
as
one of my better sketches.
as far as a sketch goes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, those are dice. Those are pretty easy to like make some reference shapes in 3D. So I modeled some 3D dice that mimic the real dice shapes and put it into the composition so that you could like trace them and make the perspective look spot on. And I think that when I showed you that and you used it, I think it worked pretty well for making the dice look 3D.
Yeah, like flat on in the design, but still based off of a 3D model so that it,
Yeah,
it, it didn't it looked real even
right.
in a flat print. Yeah, that's true. And you like you're kind of a 3D artist hobbyist guy, so that worked well for you. With the bird feeder in the center, did you do that in 3D at all either? I don't think you did.
Um,
Did you?
no, I think you managed to handle that. We had one version at one point, and then you had spent a bunch of time to make it look more like the in-game bird feeder.
Yeah. And then you fixed it up after that, I guess.
And yeah, after that, I took it and I basically flattened all the vector designs and put some finishing touches to that floral design around the outside ring.
Yeah. Yeah, you had kind of
Yep.
you had actually taken, because I had drawn out pretty painstakingly some floral, or like, not floral, but kind of like hipster vine designs. And I had pretty painstakingly drawn those out. And then you had taken that and kind of created a paintbrush asset or something in Illustrator. And
Yeah.
you were able to affect it so that it made a circle without us actually having to go and illustrate a whole circle, which would have been really annoying.
Right.
So that was really helpful too. Both of those things were great.
Yeah. Basically taking that initial floral design in a straight line and then bending it around a circle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was another good example of how our process really works well and complements each other's skill sets
Yeah.
to get to a final endpoint. So which of the shirts would you say was the hardest, the trickiest design to create? Which one gave you the most trouble?
Um because there's 7 of them, I don't exactly remember which particular one was
So,
the hardest, but a lot of the scythe designs were actually quite technical. It might have been the Saxony one actually, where attempting to get the legs to look right was quite difficult. Because basically we took photographs of the little miniatures and then like from a downwards up perspective, and then we took those photographs and traced the final artwork on with the photos as reference. So it wasn't like you didn't get perfect lines to trace, so you had to imagine it.
I think especially because
And
Saxony was black, so all the lines kind of
yeah,
just merged into the model. You couldn't really see them very clearly.
yeah.
It was hard to see definite lines on it. It's true.
So getting the perspective on the legs when you're like trying to imagine the 3D shapes you're drawing. Yeah, that took quite a bit of time to get right.
Well, and on the Albion mech, you went overboard on the detail. You were like, the Albion mech detail is probably the most detailed mech. It's got all these little pipes and little things.
Oh yeah, yep. There might be a bit too much detail on that.
It's cool, but I was like, "Foof, you didn't have to do that much on it." But yeah, the size shirts were tough.
Yeah.
All right, so which of our now that we've kind of finished all of our products, I mean, we've still got a couple in the pipe, but those are going to wait for after pre-order.
Yeah.
So which of them, if you had to pick one shirt that was your favorite shirt, which one would it be?
I was gonna make it a toss up between the Roosviet mech shirt, but I think my favorite is probably the wingspan shirt, just because of how the dice tower pops up out the top of the ring there, and just makes the graphic a lot more dynamic than it initially was. With because we had initially had the birdhouse dice tower in the just in the middle of the circle.
Yeah, kind of more centered.
Yeah, so I have to say I'd rather like that one. It feels very balanced to me. And also the early bird gets whatever they want is pretty clever. I like the phrasing.
Yeah, that one took a long time to actually figure out something clever to say about it. I was like, bird quotes. What's a good bird quote? And then like, I read so many bird quotes, and then like none of them really quite worked because all of them were kind of too long or didn't really mean anything that could be like related to the game. And I felt like we
Yeah.
really needed to have something that wasn't just about birds, but actually fit Wingspan as a game. So that was tricky. So I'm glad it ended up well because I had no idea. So what would you say is have there been any funny stories out of this whole process?
Any funny stories?
Yeah, I don't have this written down, so you weren't prepared for it.
Oh my gosh. How do I remember? We've been putting together artwork for quite a while now.
It's true. When did we start? We probably started
Last year sometime.
last September,
Yeah.
November, because we sent the
Start.
first two size shirts to Jamie in December and got his agreement with
Oh,
him,
okay.
and that was the first two size shirts we did. That was the Nordic kingdoms and the Republic of Polonia. So we're getting close to a year since we started working on it. I know I was doing kind of some base level market research at last year's FallCon, just seeing if anyone else was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, we found a pretty good niche there, I think.
Time will tell, that's for sure. What do you think about the whole, like we were talking about earlier, so far, like in our giveaways and like in our shirt orders, probably the shirts that have done best are our Nature is Stupid shirt and our I'd rather play board game shirts rather than the shirts that are based on actual games.
Something that we totally didn't really expect.
Yeah.
Those unique designs being more popular.
That's kind of encouraging though.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think that means that, like, at first I thought we'd kind of be limited by what licenses we could get. But if we can have ideas for more, like, kind of original artwork and stuff that's not related to a board game,
like to a specific board game, more towards kind of board game culture or whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like it gives us a lot more freedom, I'd say.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see.
I like that aspect of it. I mean, I'm an artist at heart, so I like putting out ideas of unique designs.
What would you say in board games? Do you have a favorite color that you pick? Like blue, red, green, yellow, orange. Usually there's not. What would be a fifth color that's normal? It's always
there's a green.
Yeah, it would be green. Green, blue, yellow, red.
Black. There's black and white as well. Who wants
that's
those
true.
Colors.
White has got to be the worst color.
Yeah.
It's only the only one worse than white is like natural wood color. Like,
just brown or like a dark brown color. Anyhow, my favorite color forever has been blue, but blue tends to be pretty popular, so I've created like a two-pronged approach to color.
Yeah, you have a two-pronged strategy to picking your which color you're going to play in a board game.
Yeah. So basically, if I don't really feel like fighting for blue or beating somebody to the blue color, I'll often default to red nowadays. And other people have like referred to the idea that red is an aggressive color, so it makes you win more often. I don't know what I think of that, but I like the color. So it's either blue or red usually is my go-to colors.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. It's a good two-prong approach. You're kind of messing with people. You're like, I'm an aggressive player. I want red.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
and
watch out for that guy. And then you're like, just joking.
If I want to be like in the background and not really noticed as I advance my factions.
Conquest.
Yes, dreams of conquest. As I shall win the game, I choose blue because it's a more background color that nobody really thinks of when they're in the game.
You're more calm, peaceful. That's fair.
See, I'm a nice guy. And then I come with a giant sword and stab you in the back.
What would you say is your favorite board game right now?
Favorite right now? Well, I would say that my favorite like go-to in the past has been Settlers, and I still enjoy it as long as I don't play it super often. I had a pretty flippin' awesome game on the weekend. So that was fun, where the brick was really constricted, and I managed to pull a win with 3 victory point cards hidden.
Oh.
So that was cool. I surprised everyone. The game lasted just long enough for me to collect enough cards. So, and I was like, boom!
Yeah, isn't Victory, like, I don't play Settlers anymore because I hate it. But isn't like Victory via the victory cards, like, that's kind of the hardest way to do it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
random. There's no.
It's random and it's resource heavy.
So it's pretty impressive.
The game was slow enough that nobody was picking up enough stuff quickly enough to win. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what made it possible.
So just kind of having the brick in like really short demand really just kind of slowed everyone else down.
I actually had the only brick, or the only producing brick really, on an 11, and that's a pretty low rolled number.
Really?
So yeah, the other ones were 12 and 2.
I know my dad had a deck of dice. It was like a deck of cards, but it had like every dice roll.
Oh yeah.
Like, and like with the probabilities. So it was like, and you just flipped one every round, and it made sure that the probabilities were actually accurate. And that maybe kind of helped it for me, because then it was like, you for sure, if you buy a 6, you for sure will get stuff. Whereas
right,
Catan with dice,
it's
sometimes
not guaranteed.
It's like, it can be just
every
awful.
game isn't guaranteed because it's based on chance.
Yeah, and like, I don't mind chance. I think chance is good often, but I prefer it when it can be mitigated. And I feel like with Settlers, you can't really mitigate it too much. Like if your numbers are never rolled, they're never rolled. That's it.
Yes.
But I don't mean to get into the.
That's why I don't play it too often, because of that, but also because there's other board games to play. Maybe my favorite newer game that I played is actually Altiplano.
Yeah, I gave that to you for your birthday.
And I know, I was super excited. The game where you're basically in the mountains of Peru, and you have different tiles that you go around. I don't even know how to describe it. It's got a lot of small pieces, and it's pretty complicated, but once you wrap your head around collecting resources and the strategies around it, it's pretty neat.
All right. So thanks for joining us. Thanks, Andrew, for talking and letting me interview you. That was fun. You guys can check out the store and our Falcon fundraiser at meeplescrossing.com, all one word. And you're helping us out, starting our little biz, and you're helping Falcon out with whatever you purchase. So, yeah. So check it out. Thanks. Bye-bye.